If you've been outside lately, it's been cold, it's been windy, it's been blustery, and lucky for us, we all get to go home or go to our place of work and get warm and stay out of the elements. But for some, that is also where they live, and they need a lot of support. And there is an organization locally here in the Detroit area that's been working hard for a long time to support those in our homeless population. Those are our friends over at the Pope Francis Center. We're pleased to be joined now by their executive director, Father Tim McCabe, with us on the MegaCast. Father, thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So let's start off. Can you give us just a brief overview of the history of the Pope Francis Center and its mission in our community?
Yeah, we have been serving the homeless population in downtown Detroit for 30 plus years. We started as a small organization out of the back of St. Peter and Paul Church. We've grown into a multi-service organization, which includes showers, laundry, 2 meals a day, medical, dental clinics, legal clinics, things like that, to help alleviate some of the suffering that folks living on the streets experience on a day-to-day basis.
That can be tough, especially in a large city like Detroit, especially and in a large downtown area like Detroit features. For someone that is homeless to seek these services if they're a far distance away from your facilities, especially when there's inclement weather like we've been experiencing over the last several days and the last couple of weeks here in this Michigan winter. So how does the homeless population seek your services, or do you seek the homeless population to provide these services to them?
Yeah, they find us. We're currently working out of the Huntington Place, the former Cobo Hall Convention Center, and there is a large population of people who are experiencing homelessness downtown. Those who are in shelters and need a place to come during the day, early day hours, find their way to us. They take a bus, or generally if they're outside the walking distances. But generally when somebody, especially when they're first homeless, they gravitate towards downtown because that's where they find the resources that they need.
And so over the holidays, Father McCabe, the Pope Francis Center received the help of a couple of Detroit's largest companies, largest businesses, including General Motors, who was able to help with long lines of people that were awaiting for COVID-19 tests before they entered your facilities for some of your service. Can you speak to some of the many different ways that these companies, including GM, had helped your organization provide its services, especially during a busy time like the holidays, and as we go into some of the tougher months of the year, I would imagine, for the homeless population and the cold blustery winters?
Yeah, so we live in a very generous city, and a lot of our corporations really see themselves as community partners. So Ford Motor Company, Lear, GM, they all have kind of rallied around us and help us provide our services. So we're currently building a housing facility to help end chronic homelessness in our city. So all three of them have contributed financially to that effort. And as you mentioned, GM came forward. I knew they were using those temperature kiosk machines in the Renaissance Center, and I just called and asked where they got them, trying to locate where we could get our own. And they called me back and said, we'll give you 2 of ours to use. And so we put those up at Huntington Place so that when people come in, we can at least check temperatures as part of our screening process for COVID. And then if they do test positive or are symptomatic, the city's done a great job of making sure that there's quarantine sites for people to go to while they recover from COVID.
We're joined by Father Tim McCabe, who is the executive director of the Pope Francis Center, joining us on the MegaCast. And so as part of that support from Ford and from GM, from Lear, and from other organizations that you were talking about, in December, you were able to break ground on the Bridge Housing Campus. That's going to be a really great effort here in the local area in downtown Detroit to provide not only shelter but also additional services to the homeless community that will be really helpful in helping them hopefully transition away from being in the homeless population and into regular homes and into regular jobs and living the life that they deserve to be able to live. Can you tell us a little bit about both the idea behind the Bridge Housing Complex and some of the features that will be included to help our homeless population and end up getting themselves out of the homeless population?
Sure. So one of the things that I love about our program that we're currently doing is that we provide, day-to-day services, and we do it really well. We treat people with dignity and respect. and we don't judge them for whatever they're carrying in their lives. But I recognize that it was only transactional. We weren't really changing their situation. We're simply providing them services. And so I went around the country. I looked at 22 different programs in 9 different cities, and I developed what I understand from the best practices of other places around the country, a program that can end chronic homelessness in the city of Detroit. And that, so we began to develop that, begin to work with architects and builders. And so, as you mentioned, we broke ground last month, and we will build a facility that will really focus on what it takes to make that transition, because it's a very difficult transition for folks who have habitualized being on the street. So trauma-informed care, recognizing that homelessness is a result of trauma, and so approaching their care in that a way to give them individualized care so that we're dealing specifically with their history and their needs, because everybody's needs are different. And then we provide, along with housing, social work, job training, psych, addiction, all of the different people in offices working together to kind of help them make that difficult transition and offer them the support that they need to do that, so they're successful once they do get into permanent housing.
And it's important too, not only to provide those services, but to provide them for an extended period of time as well. And so it will, of course, at the Bridge Housing Center, be a temporary shelter. But how long will the homeless population that will be taking residency in these studio apartments, when they are complete, how long will they be able to be there and take in those services that will help them build their future?
So based on what I saw around the country, I'm anticipating that most people will be able to make the transition between 90 and 120 days. We'll give them what they need to stabilize and move forward towards housing. Some will take less time, some will take more time, but that's kind of what we're thinking. I think, right now we're seeing, because of the moratorium on evictions being lifted, that we're seeing a lot of people who are newly homeless, and those folks who have never been homeless before, that we can get them into housing pretty quickly. But for folks that are chronically homeless, been on the streets for years, who are dealing with severe mental illness or addiction, they're going to take a little bit longer to kind of stabilize and get the support that they need to make that move.
We're joined by Father Tim McCabe, the Executive Director of the Pope Francis Center, joining us on the MegaCast. Of course, this is all going to be great. A lot of services being provided: 40 studio apartments, temporary shelter for from a quarter of a year, 90 days, to roughly a third of the year in 120 days. And it's important too, because I would imagine for those that are in the homeless population, that are chronically homeless especially, and dealing with mental health issues or physical health issues or other issues on top of their homelessness, that their day-to-day life is about survival, not about that next step, not about necessarily helping themselves get out of that homelessness situation, but get to the next day and get to the next day. And so a service like this can only be extremely helpful, I would think, to anybody, whether they are, like you said, newly homeless because of the lifting of the eviction moratorium, and it's their first time that someone's living on the streets, or they've been chronically homeless. So it's exciting to know this is coming to downtown Detroit. When do you expect that the Bridge Housing Center will be operational and begin to be able to provide this exceptional level of service on top of what's already provided by your organization?
Yeah, 18 to 24 months basically is the building projections. Obviously, there's been a disruption in construction materials, and there's all shortages on labor. So we're kind of weighing that, but based on our best projections, 18 to 24 months we'll be up and running.
We're joined by Father Tim McCabe, who is the Executive Director of the Pope Francis Center, joining us on the MegaCast. And so, of course, the Bridge Housing Center, a lot of the efforts of recently during the pandemic have been through great support of local organizations and local businesses, but it takes the community support to provide these organizations with the resources that they need to help a wide mass of people in the Detroit area, especially in downtown Detroit in particular, that are helping our homeless population. So what are some of the many ways that people in Detroit, in the metro area, can support your organization if they would like to do so, and by doing so, help our homeless population in the local area?
Yeah, great question. So there are two. If folks wanted to help out with the bridge housing and that our goal of ending chronic homelessness by 2030, that's a financial contribution that would be, we still have about $5 million to raise of the 30 million that it will cost to build this building or this campus. If people wanted to help with the day-to-day operations that we're currently doing at Huntington Place, they can go to our website and popefranciscenter.org and find our volunteer page and sign up. There's a calendar there. It'll show you volunteer slots, and they help with serving food, helping with the distribution of hygiene products, working in our laundry or showers, or helping with the meal preps, because we provide nutritious homemade meals every day to kind of make sure there's a nutrient dense balanced meal that they're getting on a daily basis. So any of those options, popefranciscenter.org. You can make a donation there, or you can sign up to volunteer there. There are multiple ways that people can help. And as you said, it takes a community to tackle a problem as significant as this. We don't want to end up like the West Coast, where the numbers are so high that it seems almost impossible to address. I mean, I was out in LA and there's 50,000 unsheltered. And that's just beyond anything I can imagine fixing. But our numbers are still, the city's done a great job, and there's a lot of good organizations working with the homeless. This is a gap in services that we're going to fill and actually end chronic homelessness in our city.
Yeah, these are our fellow city residents, our neighbors, our friends, our family, our coworkers. It's not just people that have been struggling for a long time, or not just people with mental illness or addiction issues or whatever the case may be. It's people all across the board. Homelessness can affect a wide range of people, and does. And so having these services available in our communities is vital, and having that support from the community makes these services possible. We're joined by Father Tim McCabe, the Executive Director of the Pope Francis Center. If you'd like to learn more information or get involved with this organization, you can visit popefranciscenter.org. Father McCabe, anything else for us today that you'd like us to know or would be important for our audience to be considering about the services that you provide at this time?
I just say again, our website is popefranciscenter.org. It's important that we all do what we can. I have seen miracles happen when everybody gives what they have to give and participates. And again, it's a very generous community and a very loving, compassionate community. That's the spirit of Detroit. And so if people want to get involved, there's plenty of ways to do that.
Well, Father McCabe, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us, telling us more about the services provided by the Pope Francis Center, and as well as exciting additional services and expansion of services in the near future.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.